What's up, everybody? Real Estate Deal Breakdown this week. I am Greg Helbeck, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel, like the video if you get value, obviously. And if you're watching this on social media, like it and share it. That would be great. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I just want to have as many people as possible see this. So today I'm going to talk about a real estate deal that I did in New Jersey last year because it was a good one. There's a lot of lessons in it. And so if you're not familiar with me, I've bought and sold well over 100 houses. I've been doing this full time for 6 years now. So I got a lot of experience and I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. So hopefully I can transfer those lessons to you the easy way by this video so you don't have to make the mistakes that I have made. Anyway, 126 Elin Street, Succossana, whatever the hell it's called, New Jersey. It's in the Roxbury area in Morris County. Got the lead in off of direct mail. And my lead manager was telling me that it was a decent seller, didn't know how motivated they were, but said it was a decent opportunity, ended up getting involved with the seller and got an offer accepted, got a contract signed on it, and vacant house, seller lived in Florida, didn't want to deal with it, needed to sell it. You know, all the motivation, you could think of, needs work, reason for selling, vacant, timeline was there. He just wanted to dump this property. So anyway, long story short, we locked the deal up. I found a buyer, my buddy Eugene, right away wanted the property. He took it off of me, and we had a double close going on where I was going to buy the house and then resell it to him. And obviously it ended up working out, but we ran into some hair on the deal. And if you're not familiar with real estate, when anyone says hair on the deal, it just means that the property had some issues with it, whether it was a title issue or whether it was a building issue. In this case, it was a building issue. So we found out after we were under contract that actually, if you're watching this and you're in the New Jersey area, a lot of properties in New Jersey have underground oil tanks, which means that basically back in the day, I don't know why they did this, but they would put oil tanks inside the ground, and then the oil tank would be under the ground, and that would that would connect to the furnace or the boiler, and then it would heat the entire house. So obviously that is not that good for the environment, so they eventually stopped doing that, and they started putting oil tanks either outside, like above the ground, or in the basement, or wherever it could be, but they stopped putting them underground. However, these properties that already had them in the ground, some of them just continued to stay there. So in New Jersey, you got to do a tank scan, which is when a company comes out and they scan the property and they basically look and see if there is a oil tank there. And they hired a tank company and they found one oil tank, and you have to pull it out, right? So this company basically said that there's an oil tank there, we got to pull it out. So we had to pay money to get the oil tank extracted before we closed. And then when you pull out the oil tank, I know I'm kind of going faster, but when you pull out the oil tank and it's leaking, it becomes an environmental liability. So what happens is then the tank company has to report that to the state, and then the state has to basically go through a protocol to remove the oil, and it can be really expensive. It's a long process. But anyway, we had that happen, and it was like not that big of a deal, so we ended up kind of having it work itself out. But before we thought the deal was done, there was another buried oil tank that was discovered on the property. The oil tank company was like, hey, this is not normal, but I think there's actually another tank here. We got to do another tank scan. Did another tank scan, and they found another leaking buried oil tank underneath the property, and then we got ourselves into a whole bunch of trouble here on this deal. Ended up, being a huge cost. The first oil tank company had some crazy price that they quoted us at that would have killed the deal, and we were like, that's crazy, we can't do that. And then I was talking to the seller, and he wasn't happy about that, and the attorney wasn't happy, and it turned into a mess. I thought the deal was honestly going to die. But what ended up happening was I ended up finding another oil tank company that I wanted a second opinion on, because the first oil tank company's price just didn't really make any sense. And if it was the number that we had to go with, it would have totally killed the deal. So called this other company, told them exactly what was going on, and they ended up saying that they think they can do it cheaper. They sent someone out there, they did their measurements and whatever, and they gave us a price that was reasonable. So we ended up getting a price reduction from the seller to reflect the cost of the oil tank, because that needed to happen in order to make the deal make sense. The seller was being a little reluctant about it. They ended up caving in and giving us the price reduction. So we ended up buying. Went to the property went to the closing with a cashier's check in my hand and gave the cashier's check to the title company. I owned the property for literally 25 minutes. 25 minutes later, I sold the property to Eugene, got all my money back, and made like $37,000, I think, on the wholesale deal after all the fees and shit were associated for or accounted for. And it ended up being a smoking hot wholesale deal. But at the end of the day, it was not an easy deal. And if it was a brand new investor doing that deal, they most likely wouldn't have had the money to go get in cash, and they would not have been able to handle the oil tank scenario. So the lesson of that is that if you're brand new and you're doing deals in the Northeast, you should definitely partner up with an experienced investor, whether it's me or somebody else, because we guarantee you we've been through this, we've done that, and we've experienced it. So it'll allow you to basically ride on top of our shoulders in order to get these deals done. Because if this was me at the beginning of my career, that deal would have been shot. I wouldn't have been able to close it, and I wouldn't have made the money I made. So another lesson I learned from this deal is that when a deal gets hairy, 9 out of 10 times there's a way to solve the problem. I could have said, oh, forget it, there's 2 buried oil tanks, let's just leave this thing, let's cancel the contract. But I was like, no, there's a way to solve this problem. Went in there, called another oil tank company, negotiated with them, got a good price, negotiated back with the seller because I didn't know about this. If I knew about this in the beginning, I would have obviously gotten a lower price to begin with. So sometimes you do have to renegotiate when you do find things that were not accounted for when you originally made the offer and got the offer accepted and signed a contract. So if you're out there in the real estate business, wheeling and dealing, buying houses, doing rental deals, doing whatever you got to do, wholesale deals, even if you're a broker, you got to anticipate problems. They're going to always be there, especially on discounted real estate that's off market. And when you identify those problems, you got to find a solution to those problems, because at the end of the day, like I said, 9 out of 10 issues with hair on them can get resolved, whether with money, time, creativity. As long as you're doing everything above board, they will all work out when you're persistent, right? That actually is one of my favorite quotes. There's a quote I heard from a buddy of mine, Chris Craddock. He says, persistence breaks resistance, right? So by being persistent on that deal, we eventually broke all the resistance and ended up putting $37,000 or $37,500 in my bank account, which was great, right? And that made all of our marketing more profitable, and I was able to use that money to continue to grow our business. So hopefully you got value from today's lesson. And if you're out there and you want to do real estate deals with me and you're in the Northeast, whether you're in New Jersey, New York, the Hudson Valley, or you're in San Diego, email me. I'd love to JV with you on your wholesale deals. Or if you're a wholesaler, you want to sell me properties, I'd love to buy your wholesale deals. I'm a direct buyer. I'll give you a decision right away. And easy buyer to deal with for sure. So Greg at velocityhousebuyers.com, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.